Flosstube, it's Arlene. It's Friday, June 23rd, 2023. Been a few weeks. It's been on my mind to get back here, and today I made it happen. It's been one of those weird days. I was expecting a delivery, and they gave me a window of 10 to 1, which is better than like 10 to 5. But you just can't plan what is going to happen in your day if you're leaving open the hours of 10 to 1. So it was like very much at not odds. It's very much like, what am I doing with myself? Luckily, about 11:30, 12, they got the call. They were 10 minutes away, and I'm like, all right, now I can start figuring out my day. And so at a piece of my day, I was going to do this video. Actually, I was going to do it a few days ago, and it's been put off, and it's like, well, it's all going to depend on all kinds of other things. But here I am with you all. So thank you for being here. If you are new, welcome. Thank you for finding me. There are tons of floss tubes out there, and I'm really glad you've stopped by to say hello and see what I have to share. This is a video about stitching. I tend to use the word stitching instead of cross-stitching because I do all different kinds of things, with a lot of them being cross-stitch, especially because I'm a designer, and I mostly design cross-stitch. We'll get into that in a moment. But the first thing I've written down, because it's important to say at the beginning, and a way maybe you all can help me out. In the last couple of videos I posted, I had a couple, not just a couple, but a couple people mentioned to me that they were getting a lot of ads. And I don't know if other people were experiencing it and just didn't comment about it, or like an extraordinary number of ads. And there's been times I've started videos and I've seen that kind of thing happen. Let me share with you my knowledge of this. I am not monetized. There are some channels that are. It used to be on YouTube, if you weren't monetized, meaning you're trying to get ad money from YouTube, there were no ads, and that was great. However, YouTube changed its mind on that. And so now, whenever you see ads, I'm talking about Flosstube. I'm talking about like not million views, like literally like YouTube influencers out there, but like our level of Flosstube, which can range from a few hundred, a few thousand in some cases. So it's not like, what do I know? But I don't think any Flosstuber is like making a living off of Flosstube. I think it's just like a few pennies. But the point is that it used to be different, and now if you see commercials, ads, it is not the choice of the person making it that is happening. Now, I don't know what was happening for some people to see so many ads. Here's the deal. I can't monetize because you need two things. You need a certain number of subscribers. I have that. You need a certain number of hours watched over the course of whatever time period YouTube decides. If you are monetized, then you can choose about commercials. You can choose to only have them at the beginning, at the end, which is what I would love to do. But I don't have the control. So here's the deal. Could you please watch? I mean, like literally, or, you're doing something else. Set one of my videos in the other room and just let it play. If I can build up more hours, I can then have control over the ads and, in theory, stop them from showing up in the middle. So I just thought I'd put that out there because, again, I know a lot of people don't realize this, especially because YouTube, when I first started, and I'm trying to think when YouTube changed, at least a few years ago at this point. So when you see ads, it's not like the person making the video is getting money. And as I understand it, we're not talking maybe you could go buy a cup of coffee or kind of money. So help me out, get your computer set or laptop or phone, just let it play some of my videos, see if I can build up some hours so I can get over that hump with YouTube. So thank you for that. I want to jump into what I've been stitching, sort of. I do basically all of my own models, stitching all my own models for my designs. Right now, I'm signed up for the Needlework Marketplace, which is happening at the end of August. It will be an online virtual show, a wholesale show. So it's for stores to purchase and then have new designs to sell to their customers. And so a lot of my stitching right now is getting the models ready for the new designs I plan to come out with in August. But in between, there was a couple things I wanted to make sure I've been stitching on. And there's one big one to share with you because I've shared it in work in progress over the course of at least a couple times, I think, on the video. So I have finished the rose. This is stitched on, let's see, here we go. I stitched this on 40 count silk gauze. And if you've never seen silk gauze before, it is very much like a, look, you can see me. It's like a, I don't say transparent, but it's, I'm trying to bring it up super close. I don't know if you can get, it's like a tiny canvas. The holes are bigger than the threads. There's no reason why you couldn't do this pattern on any size count you want. There's nothing different about a design that you would stitch on 40 count, a 40 count silk gauze, and you would stitch on 40 count linen or 14 count Aida or whatever. The story behind this, so it's definitely worth sharing. Last year, I should have also said, coming up in just about 3 weeks is my retreat, Stitch NJ, which is the new name for it, formerly known as the New Jersey Flosstube Retreat. It was time to change it, to make it, anyway, Stitch NJ is coming up in just about 3 weeks. It is very exciting. I have all kinds of, my home is a mess right now. Part of it was because of the furniture delivery, but also I've got retreat stuff all over the place. And so go back to last July when I had my retreat. We had this epic freebie table. I mean, I've been to retreats, not that many last couple of years, where there's a freebie table and there's usually awesome, amazing things. There was so much on that table. And I think it was partially because if you were someone who hadn't been to a retreat in like 2 or 3 years, you brought all your extra stuff. So this magazine was on, well, not this copy of it, but this magazine was on the freebie table. Danielle Jones, a Stitcherista, saw this magazine, picked it up, and then told a story in her video. So she, many years ago, had seen this with a rose on the cover, thought it was the most beautiful thing. And, you know, one of those things that stick in the back of your mind, I think I'm telling this story correctly. And she had just no idea what magazine, what issue, anything. And so when she saw this rose on the cover, she's like, oh my God, that's the magazine with the rose. So she had it, she took it. She was showing the pattern. I mean, you know, this is what the pattern looks like. And she was talking on her video, and the count is 171 by 177. And she was just trying to figure out if she was going to stitch it, what she was going to stitch it on. And it was stitched on 28 count, but it was stitched over one thread. And so she's just talking out loud. And I don't know if she was serious about ever doing it, but it was just but now I have it. And I think we all have patterns and things that you're just glad to have. So in my comment on her video, which was about, it was a vlog style video of the retreat, you know, I was watching anyone who put out one of those kind of videos about the retreat. I jokingly commented, oh, forget that 14, whatever she said, size wise, you should just stitch it on 40 count silk gauze. You know, smiley face joking. And she wrote an LOL joking back. Fine, cool. And then it got stuck in my mind. And, you know, sometimes you just have a thought. And even though it sounds crazy, and let's be honest, I've stitched on silk gauze before. I've stitched actually, oh, I should have picked it. It doesn't matter. I'll show it another time. There was just something about this that made me think it would look extraordinary if it was small. Not that it wouldn't look extraordinary if it was on a more, quote, typical size. So long story short, thanks to a kind viewer, I was able to get a copy of the magazine. So the magazine it came from is Stitcher's World from July 2003. So the 20th anniversary of this magazine. So I started stitching on it. When I first started stitching, you know, like that, I referred to it as the pink blob. I mean, it didn't look like anything. And slowly the design evolved. Now, there's a little bit of back stitching, but not much. I mean, especially the center part, there's no back stitching here. That's all just about the color changes. So I've worked on it in little spurts. I have to use very strong magnification, very good lights to work on this silk gauze, especially with so many color changes. I did it in little spurts in between other projects. And when I finished a model a couple months or so ago and I needed a little break in between things, I'm like, you know what? I want to see if I can get that rose done because it would mean a lot to me to get it done in time to have it on the brag table on retreat this year, which I made it happen. So those of you who are coming to Stitch in a Day will get a chance to see it in person. It was just a fun story. And just so you know, the designer of this is a man. I meant to double check this. And he, Mark Seystad. So if you like, I don't know if this is the only thing he did, but he's got all kinds of flower things, these highly detailed flower designs. There's a really interesting article in here about him. So there you go. That has been a major stitching project that is now complete. And I even have an idea of how I'm going to finish it. We'll see. FFO it. We'll see if that comes to pass, and I'll share it with you, of course, then. Something else I've been stitching a little bits and spurts here and there is, again, coming up on my retreat. One of the other tables we have is a huge raffle table. Last year, I know we had over 50 items, all for a fundraiser. We raised last year over $2,300 for a local no-kill animal shelter. And when I brought that check to them, they were just basically out of the blue. I mean, I called that day and said, coming over with a large donation. And they're like, well, and you could just hear the person, what do you call large? And when I said $2,300, she's like, I'll make sure the director is available to talk to you. So we are having a raffle table again this year. I've had some wonderful donations already. I reached out to fabric and thread companies. And anyway, one of the things that I've put on the raffle table the last 2 times that has done well. Oh, and these are only $1 raffle tickets, or 6 for $5. I mean, we're not talking about like $10 raffle tickets here. So it's amazing when you have a retreat of about 100 people, you can raise that much money with $1 tickets. It's a huge thank you to that group. Anyway, I've made necklaces, and I meant to put one of my own on to show you. I know I've shown these necklaces I've made in other videos. So I wanted to make sure I did something like that for the raffle table, and I'm going to push myself to get 3 of them done. So here is the stitching on one. Preface, I should have said. This is stitched on 56 count over 1. Am I getting close enough without it blowing out? So those are full X's. Oh, I should have said the silk gauze was all DMC, and it was 10 stitch, 1 strand 10 stitch. When you're on 40 count, that's about what you can fit in the holes of silk gauze. So this is 56 count linen. You may have seen it at various times. You may hear people stitching on it. If you do over 2 on 56 count, it's the equivalent of doing over 1 on 28 count. So it's still small, but I don't think it's that common to find over 1. If you know, oh my God, I'm blanking. Yasmin? Yeah, Yamir. Sorry, I'm blanking on her name. Almond M&Ms. She stitches tiny, tiny things. Anyway, so I stitch a design on some 56 count linen, and I do an FFO to finish it as a necklace. So this one is finished. Sitting right over here on this little table stand I have is number 2. And over here are the threads and the material ready to go for number 3. So I'm going to push myself to get these done. I did the 3 designs I'm doing on these necklaces are actually adaptations of individual blocks from my symmetrical squares design. Those were squares, and they were smaller than what I needed. So I basically took the square design and added a little bit more around the edge for all 3. And just so you know, thread-wise, well, what thread do you use that can work on 56 count over 1? So this is a thread that I've been familiar with because of my lace world. It's YLI 100. It's a silk thread, and it is very, very fine. I should have something to hold up against it. It is a very, very fine thread. I mean, way finer than like a typical sewing thread. And so I don't know how many colors it comes in. I only own 3 of these spools. So the idea of doing like a multicolor design, well, I need to acquire a lot more. But it's a great thread to work with. I use super high magnification for this. And I'm looking forward to getting all 3 of them done and hopefully sharing them with you here. Oh, little, not quite new stitching, but a new find related to stitching. I was in Michael's just the other day needing something totally else, something totally different, but walked by the frame department where there's like the end aisles, and I saw a little display of like little frames, and I saw this guy. And while I hadn't been consciously looking for this recently, I did some long time ago, I thought, that's a solution. So you're going to think I only stitch on silk gauze, which I don't. So I've shared these two little guys. So there's Van Gogh's Starry Night. This is stitched on 40 count silk gauze. This is Matisse, is it Icarus? This was stitched on 60 count because I found I had a piece of it and I wanted to see if I could do it. This was stitched using sewing thread. You just can't get a DMC strand through these holes. And so I had to pick a design that had very few colors. These, works of art in miniature size, they are about 30 by 40 stitches. There is a woman on Etsy, I think it's The Stitch Patterns. I'll link her below. And she does all kinds of designs, but one of the huge categories on her Etsy store are famous works of art in miniature. So I thought, well, I could have myself a little art museum kind of display. Hold on, I'm trying to get this in. In a way, again, I'd vaguely been, when I finished the Matisse, I remember like saying on a video, I needed to think about how I could FFO it. So obviously I would need to cut it down and, make it look right. But to have these, you notice I only have two. I find this display stand, I think that's just going to make me, I have to do a third one just to have my own little art gallery in miniature. So this was a fun find, and I'm glad that I spotted it because it's going to work for the sake of what I just wanted, a little way to display works of art in miniature. This works great. All right. I wanted to mention sort of a recent find, but hold on, I'm writing notes to make sure I do a link. I wanted to mention sort of a recent find. I mean, I know I've been aware of it before, but now I'm super aware of it. And that is the Arts and Culture site that's a part of Google Arts and Culture. I, some weeks back, was Googling information for one particular thing related to a piece of artwork and found information that led me to that piece of artwork's entry on Google Arts and Culture. And you know what happens? You go down a whole rabbit hole. And here's so why am I mentioning this now? Right now, I'm almost finished with a new design that'll be coming out in August that is completely based on the image of something I found on Google Arts from a museum, Hillwood Museum, which I'm aware of. It's I've been there in DC. If you're interested, go look up Hillwood. So I was familiar when I landed there, and I just saw something that caught my eye in a very geometric kind of way. I'll save the whole story for when I have the opportunity, when I'm going to share the design. But since then, I've just been poking around. And what's interesting, I can't figure out how I got to this hill. Like, a lot of the things I've been searching are like lace, cross stitch, sampler, needlework. Some clearly must have been searching something else to land on what is actually like a soup bowl. There you go. It's basically a bowl. So it's like I want to kind of find some other surprises that might inspire me. I love when I have the opportunity to go to museums and get ideas, whether it's for a stitching project or something. But sometimes you just can't get to places. And I'm so appreciative that there's so many museums that put a lot of their artwork online for people to appreciate. And so this Google Arts and Culture section has just been a new source for me. And I just mention that in case you're interested in checking it out. All right, switching topics now. A few videos ago, I started a series that I called my Needlework Loves. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I am a cross-stitch designer. Although I haven't shown you any cross-stitch today, which is okay. But I also do black work, and I also do canvas work. So my first episode of Needlework Loves was on black work. which then turned into a two-parter. Then I did an episode on hardanger. And here today, I'm going to do an episode on Canvaswork. Now, what exactly defines that? Okay, let me just sort of talk out my story. I started cross-stitching when I was basically in high school, continued into college, my first teaching job and where I was. I can't exactly remember where I got this pattern from, but I must have been in some store. And I have two possible guesses in my mind, not that I can remember the names of either of them. And I saw this pattern. And I think it was this pattern that was my introduction to, you can do stuff with thread that is not cross stitches. And not only that, you can do a whole lot of stitches, because each of these, not even the circle, like each circle you see is made up of 4 different parts, and each of those parts had different stitches. Oh no, I take that back. Do they? No, I take that back. The 4 parts all have the same stitch, but all the circles have different stitches. And I was just so intrigued by this. And here was my introduction to Canvaswork, or an important piece that I want to start right off the bat. When I went somewhere to get the supplies I needed, so it says, to quote exactly what you need, 18-inch by 20-inch white, number 18 mono Zweigart canvas, or 15-inch by 17-inch Congress cloth. I'll talk about the difference in a second. I think I just kind of ignored the word canvas. I think when I was in a store, I went in and I said, well, I need 18 count, and I bought 18 count Aida. So this Canvaswork design I did, which was intended to be on canvas, which I'll show you in a moment. It's full coverage, you can't see anything here. The very first Canvaswork design I did on Aida. And so this is my living proof that you do not need to work on canvas to explore the stitches that you can find on Canvaswork, or as a part of Canvaswork. This is from the time when I was putting glass, and this is one of the earliest things I had professionally framed. So the whole idea of non-glare glass wasn't even like in the budget. I should have shown you. So you can see here, the front cover, the gray areas are all the same sort of light color gray. There was a version done where the gray areas are all very dark or even black. I guess maybe that's dark gray, that one's black, but then this is the, what do you call it? It goes from dark to light. And I loved that. So that's what I did. You can see the grays go dark all the way down to the light areas. So I'm trying to get as close as reasonable. I'm hoping you can see there's each circle has different stitches, and they're each are different colors, although as you go vertically, they're from the same color family. Like if you just look over here, light yellow all the way down to dark yellow on this. And I just loved this idea of exploring how to do different stitches. And like I said, you know, when you have glass on things, it's how much heavier than when you don't have glass. Just to, this idea, this is what the charts look like. I had to kind of figure out, those lines and how it works. And it was just something that was so fun for me. Genny Morrow was a designer. I'm pretty sure, I get confused. I'm pretty sure, I haven't looked lately. She passed away some time ago, and I'm pretty sure she had a family member that was still having her, still selling her designs online. If I find what I'm thinking of, I'll link it below. Otherwise, there are stores where you can find this, this and other designs. Oh, I wanted to mention, it is often talked about as Wheels of Color and Nova are companion pieces. I don't see them as companion pieces. I mean, I get why people say that. And I think, if you hold this one, they're not exactly the same size. They're both filled with lots of color. This one has a lot more organization to the color. Appeals to my brain. There's beauty in this. I got a copy of this, sort of long story. I have a copy of it. I'm glad it's one of these. I'm glad I own a copy. Might I do something with one day? Who knows? But I don't have immediate thoughts of stitching it. But so Genny Morrow, like I said, I think there might be a way to get her designs, or just, to find stores that still have them. So I didn't even realize what I was doing in learning that all those kind of stitches you can do on Aida. You could probably even do a good number of them on linen. There might need to be some adjustments, but you could, because I didn't know any better. I've done a number of pieces over the years, and I have a few. I wasn't going to show every single thing because we'd be here forever, but sort of the progression of my stitching life. There was a period of time where when blogs were really big. So I had a whole list of like stitcher blogs that, not necessarily every day, but every few days I try to run down and see what new things were posted. And there was a stitcher who was posting about stitching Scott Lee. This design is Jean Hilton. She is one who passed away. There is a store that has the copyright to sell her designs. At least I'm assuming the store is still there. I will link this below so that, there's an official place to get Jean Hilton designs. So this woman was blogging, I don't know if it was every day or every few days, about her progress on this. And as always, like, the small picture doesn't do it justice, because her pictures on her blog were really intriguing to me. So clearly, all kinds of different stitches. There were parts of it that appealed to me. The color did not. But I was intrigued enough, and eventually I got myself a copy of the pattern. And so I made some significant color changes. This is my version of Scott Lee. Now, some of the inspiration for the color came from what Jean Hilton writes in the introduction. Why is it called Scott Lee? Pretty sure that's the name of either her son or her nephew. And why is it was inspired by, here we go. My stepson Scott loves Persian rugs. He purchased a dozen of them for our home in various colors and designs. There's scarcely an area unadorned in the house. The patterns are fascinating to study, and basically this was inspired by a rug. So in that same vein, the rug that I had at that time underneath my table, I love the colors of it. So my color selection was inspired by my rug. You can see different kinds of stitches. Jean Hilton was known for these like twisty, twirly kinds of things. Jessica's, I find cross stitchers seem to be familiar with Jessica's. Picture that idea, but all kinds of variations of that kind of thing. I also think there's something of significance that I left out, and I don't remember what it was, but to me it looks so much better. So this was my foray into Canvaswork, where I felt like I was making some significant changes. Not totally changing it, but some significant changes. This piece also has an important story to share. These are all Jessica's. These blues are all Jessica's. I had stitched these all in a pearl cotton blue. And then the border went in first, and then I started working my way into the center, and I started using, I think it's a Splendor Silk blue, and I loved this blue much more. It wasn't a huge difference, but it was a difference. And it gnawed at me because I kept saying, I wish I had done the border in that blue. I wish I had done it. And it got to the point where I had to do it. I pulled out the whole thing, all the blue Jessicas, to put them back in with this color. And I have no regrets. How long it took me to do that, I don't know. But it was something that I felt like if I didn't do it, I would think about it every time I saw this. And so now I think about that this is my story of, if there's something in your work you're not going to be happy with, do something about it. I mean, especially if it's something you're going to finish, you're going to frame or something that's important. If it's something that's important and you're hemming and hawing about something, stop and ask yourself, am I not wanting to do this because I'm feeling a little lazy? In which, step away, come back, and then do it. Or are you not doing it because of other reasons? But I will always, so the two stories I'm showing you already. Number one, Canvaswork can be stitched on Aida, because I did it. It's all full coverage, you can't see it. And number two, you can change up design pieces of the design, including threads or stitches or whatever. And if there's something that isn't right, make it right, fix it, do whatever you need to do. In more recent years, again, I could be showing you everything. We would be here a very long time. Oh, but here's a quickie one. Over here, that's a Canvaswork piece. I've talked about that before. It is my stitching design based off of an actual mosaic that was that's in a museum, and maybe I'll save that for a whole nother time because it's a longer story. I don't know, before Flosstube, but not that much more before Flosstube, I got a hold of one of the Threedles, which are Curdy Bigs. I didn't pull out the patterns for these, but not this one. But her designs always intrigue me. She uses a huge variety of stitches and colors and beads and all kinds of stuff. And to me, there's something about, and threads, sorry, I knew there were three things. Different stitches, different types of threads, silk, cotton, pearl cotton, mix, whatever. So different threads, different stitches, different colors. To me, a design like this just feels a little too busy. That's me. But there was a time I saw one of her models in the store, and I thought, you know what? And I was analyzing these three things, and to me, only two would be the perfect amount, not all three. And so I bought a pattern, and I decided I was going to do this. I wanted the different stitches. I wanted the fun of different threads. But basically, I took her design and made it, and I should have taken out the pattern of this so you could compare what it looked like. I mean, let's face it, this is a different design, but this, in terms of different colors, different whatever, is what this one was originally charted at. I made some slight changes of stitches. I made my own decisions about threads. Some of the threads she used I couldn't get. That's okay. I wanted some sparkly stuff, sparkly threads. So there's velvet thread. There's all kinds of beads. And so this, my lesson from this is sort of figuring out that there's a piece of a design that intrigued me, but there was also a piece that I didn't like, and what could I do to change that? And again, it was like figuring out, it was these three things, and to me, if you do two of them, you have a great design. I'm not trying to say your designs are bad. It's what my eyes like. My eyes like something different. So I liked this so much, I said, I want to do this again. So I got another one of her designs, did the same idea. I was trying to use a lot of the same threads, but obviously in red. So there's the velvet thread and the metallic thread. Tried to use the same where the gold beads show up. I used the same gold, obviously the red beads here, but the gold beads that are in there, the same gold beads in here. And so here's Canvas, people. Sorry, I meant to comment about that. So Canvas, just trying to show you. It serves the same purpose as the threads in both linen and even weave and Aida. It's a case where the fabric threads are thicker, but the holes are, I'm not going to explain it well. It's sort of like, it comes in colors, and it also comes, as you could see, in a sparkly kind of thing. And that's what I liked, that I had gotten this sparkly stuff. So the plan is to do a third one, and that's what is sitting here. This is going to be the third design, and all three of these are about the same size. You could see I've acquired a whole bunch of green threads. I just haven't made it a priority to do it. I would like to. This is a fun kind of thing for me, in making those kinds of decisions as I go, but at the same time it becomes a little stressful is too strong of a word, but it's sort of like some nights you just want to sit down and not think, just stitch. And if you're constantly making decisions of, am I using this color, this thread, am I using this stitch, that's where it takes a little more thinking. So we'll see. At some point, I definitely want to get into the rotation to do a third of her designs in green, and then to get all three of them hung. I've contemplated the idea of a fourth one in purple, like royal purple. I'm like, oh, that would look so good. And this was me. I could see this little sticky that I was going through her designs and finding ones that were about the same size. I'm putting the purple just in the back of my mind. We'll see. We'll see. There is a huge Canvaswork piece that I know I talked about in an earlier video. It is literally framed like almost 4 feet long. It hangs above my fireplace. I wasn't going to take it down for a video. It was also a really important step in my Canvaswork life, so I don't want to leave it out. If I think I could find the video very early on where I shared about it, so I will try to remember to put that in the links below. Okay. Just also a comment about, oh, no, let me do this. So, when I first started designing Works by ABC, you can find all my stuff on Etsy, as well as in stores, as it's distributed by Hoffman. Right from the very beginning, even though I learned about this Flosstube community and I learned how popular cross-stitch was, I couldn't let go of all the different types of needlework that I had started learning about. So I also, in addition to cross-stitch designs and blackwork, I also have a few Canvaswork designs. Now, part of my thinking in this idea is knowing that certainly through Flosstube, my audience was going to be a lot cross-stitchers. And some people are always a little hesitant about, I'm not sure I'm going to like that kind of thing. So my whole goal was to make a very beginner project to show somebody who wants to give it a try that it's doable. I also made it so that I was able to, I sold small squares of canvas. So you wouldn't, that's always the piece, you know, where do I get the supplies? So if you wanted, when you bought the pattern, you can get a piece of canvas. And each of these designs involved 3 DMC threads. So I wasn't even going with all the fancy threads. So that was my thinking, the idea that if somebody wants to give something a try, you need to have as easy as possible way to get started. And that includes the supplies. So now I know this was the first one. And so these are, pretty sure it's a 9" by 9" square, but the design is a 5" by 5". I think those were the dimensions. Now I know that's the first one, but now I'm questioning. Oops. Luckily these are not under glass. You can see this is just a stretch artist canvas from Michaels. So I don't know. I'm going to say this was the second one. It might have been. Here's number 3. Or this might have been number 3. I'm pretty sure this one is the last one. And they were good sellers. They're still available. I could still send you the pattern if you could download a PDF. You could buy a PDF version. I could still sell you a pattern with a piece of canvas if you were interested. It's funny how, not funny. It's like I think anyone else in any scenario, how much you grow and change. So to look at my pattern, like the pages, the pattern of the first ones, I'm like, oh, I should like redo that neater or somehow. I think by the time I got to this one, I'd gotten into a groove of it. There's one other design I put out there that was a Canvaswork, and I just haven't done more. It's not to say I never will. I mean, I like this idea again because I set this challenge for myself. How could I introduce Canvaswork in a very doable way for someone who wants to give it a try but doesn't want to, you know, commit to a lot of supplies and everything like that? You give good instructions, so lots of diagrams. You make it so the design only needs 3 DMC colors, and you make it so that if so inclined, you can give the person a piece of canvas. Now, I know over the years I've had people ask me, do you need to use canvas? Well, no, I'm living proof. You can stitch this on any fabric you want. The only, like, here's a perfect example. The only thing that I would just keep in the back of my mind, if you look at the center of this, do you see how that's a long, I mean, they're woven, but there's a long thread going there. And if you had fabric as opposed to canvas, which canvas is stiffer, it might look a little I don't even know how to think about it. I don't know how to say it. If you're doing back stitching and you do one long giant stitch, it just kind of hangs off a little bit. I suppose something like that might happen if you were stitching, let's say, on 32 count linen. But that's only a might. I mean, all the rest of this, you could totally stitch on a Aida, a linen, whatever. So, like I said, those designs were from my early years of Works by ABC. They are still available. It's just, I'd like to come back and do more of it, but there's always, I want to do more and more and more of different kinds of designs. So we'll see. Maybe someday I'll come back to it. All right. That was just the briefest of overviews of my needlework love of Canvaswork. There are some Canvaswork designers like Curdy Biggs, Threedles, that just are known for some amazing designs. Deborah, I don't want to say names wrong, so let me just not say them. And if you're interested, there's leave me a comment and I can point you in the direction of some of the ones that I've loved. Although actually I just spoke about Hilton and Genny Morrow. Neither of them are alive, but you still have the ability to get their designs, are ones that I've just loved. So if you're still here, hopefully you stuck through because you were interested in maybe learning about Canvaswork if you've never seen it or heard of it before. I always love learning new things from Flosstube. I learned so much about the stitching world when I found Flosstube in 2017. I've been a stitcher for years. I knew how to cross stitch and so on, but man, did I learn a lot of things. Stitching related and just in other related as well. And I also had a really important story from the very beginning. At that time, there was a Facebook group called Stitch Mania, and lots of Flosstubers were talking about it on their channels. I'm like, let me join that group, and I couldn't find it on Facebook, which I'm like, MANI Mania. It was so bizarre to me. And then finally, someone in a video mentioned the Facebook group had originally came about because of Stitch May, M-A-Y, Ania. The whole fun thing that some people put on a challenge for themselves in May. And so, of course, when you go to Facebook and you search with M-A-Y-N-I-A, you find it. Well, the group is closed at this point. It's no longer around. But the point is that somebody taught me something because I was watching their video. I needed to add the letter Y. So if I've been able to teach you anything new today, I'm glad. In my, quote, real life, half my life is a needlework creative side, and the other half I'm a middle school math teacher. So I do have the teaching side of me, as people will say. All right, long enough for today. If you're still here, thank you so much. You're contributing hours towards me getting the ability to monetize so I can get rid of commercials, or at least put them in its own place so that you don't get interrupted. And like I said, I'm serious. If anything you can do to help me build up hours so that I can get over that hump with YouTube, so I can monetize, so I can choose when the commercials come, which is to say beginning and end and nothing in between. We'll see if I get there. So thank you. As I said at the beginning, I know there's so many Flosstubes to watch, and I so appreciate the time you took to spend some time with me today. No, like I said, 3 weeks is my retreat, so the next time I'll be back will be after the retreat, and I'll give you the whole rundown on how things went. Some of you I'll be seeing there in 3 weeks. Thanks so much for being here. Till next time. Bye.